Besides their accent, what's one way you know a tourist is American? Being called African American while living in the Netherlands, a black mate of mine from London was once haltingly referred to as a British African American by a tourist. Tipping. Americans will try to tip everyone, even in countries where tipping isn't a thing, is considered a serious insult. I went to Pennsylvania and tried giving a kid a $9 tip after a museum tour, and he must have thought I was crazy. He was like, "Are you sure you don't want your change back? And Americans will be wearing sneakers." Yep. I walked into a museum in Germany, and the women selling tickets greeted us in English. We were dressed conservatively and hadn't said a word, yet she knew. I asked her how, and she said, "It's your shoes." Indeed, I was wearing running shoes. They're looking for a store open at like 11 p.m., even if in most European countries stores close at like 7 to 8 p.m. I've been in Germany for 2 weeks now, and I'm not so bothered by stores closing, but more so the fact that the bars close at 1 or 2 a.m., but the trains stop running hours before. How are we supposed to get home? LOL, saying hi, how are you? To the barista, servers, retail workers. My country doesn't quite have that culture, so I find it really sweet. I took a New Zealand friend through a McDonald's drive-thru and the server said, "Hi, my name is, how can I help you?" My friend thought it was so great. She said it was like they were becoming friends. When I went to Italy with a friend, I couldn't figure out why everyone greeted me in English before I said a word. I don't wear running shoes outside of the gym. I dress pretty posh. I can't remember the last time I owned a baseball cap. And I try to have a basic grasp on the local language. How can they tell I'm American? My friend told me, it's because you're smiling at them. The absolute fearlessness of asking anyone on the street about anything at it. I don't mean this negatively. I'm just saying I've seen Americans approach people both in my home country and abroad, starting conversations with them that I wouldn't dream of because they look shady or just plain scary. Example, I was in Newcastle and I see a bald-headed skinny man with face tattoos and a tracksuit. Suddenly asked, "Hey bud, do you know where?" It's quite admirable. While in Korea, I was casually talking to a friend on the bus in regular speaking voice. Not even a minute later, the lady in front of us turns around in her seat and says very casually, "Please calm down." I guess American volume is noticeably louder. Not everyone, but in general, if you are at a restaurant or a bar, you immediately can hear who's American. That's the sound of freedom ringing in your ears. They get amazed by old things. Girlfriend used to work on a farm and an estate in the UK and would often have Americans in awe of the old buildings. One once said, "Some of these buildings are older than my country." Reminds me of that old saw, Americans think 100 years is a long time. Europeans think 100 miles is a long way. Went to Russia once, and they knew because I smiled too much. Those pearly whites are a one-way ticket to the gulag. Asking for the restroom. I mean, obviously the accent was then heard too, but in my little village in Scotland, I was in the pub and a woman politely asked the barman where the restrooms were. He didn't know WTF she was on about, and then it obviously clicked. "You mean the toilet?" "Hi, and it's juiced backer." "Yeah, I asked to use the bathroom in Geneva, and they asked why I needed to take a shower." "One toilet, please." If you see an American in Japan, they will frantically look for public trash cans. The absence of trash receptacle is something unfounded in the US, and we become confused at the idea of having to hold it for extended periods of time. I lived in Japan when the World Cup was there in 2002. There were plentiful trash cans before the World Cup. Not as many as in American cities, but quite a few. But a few weeks before the games began, they pulled out a substantial number of trash cans out of terrorism and hooliganism concerns. They never came back. It was really disconcerting. Teal, we have a monopoly on baseball caps. Seriously, apparently shorts aren't worn anywhere else either. Shorts, yes. Cargo khaki shorts? No. Baseball caps. University spirit wear. Cargo shorts. Free t-shirts from events with ads and text all over them. And for the older Americans, they always seem to just kind of stand in the middle of everything looking around. Holy shit, that's such an incredibly accurate description of us in the